Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, it's great to be here again for the Common Sense Media Summit on Kids, and it's a special honor for me to be able to present an award to someone whom I admire so greatly, that is in the name of someone who I was so privileged to work with over a number of years. Marian Wright Edelman, for whom this award is named, was a singular force on behalf of children. If you don't know much about her, I hope you will learn more, because you're here today really standing on the shoulders of people like her, who began her work on behalf of kids under incredibly difficult circumstances. She was the first African-American woman ever to be acknowledged as having passed the bar in Mississippi, and began to work there with Dr. King, worked on behalf of implementing Head Start for poor children in Mississippi, and on it went. I was privileged to start working with her when I was in law school at the Children's Defense Fund. So when I think about the work that she did against a lot of difficult odds, it really gives me hope and inspiration that we can continue to do what we need to do on behalf of children. And someone who has always done that is our awardee. Literally, she wrote the book on how to master the art and architecture of American politics. She guided our nation through crises that really tested the limits of our institutions, the resilience of our democracy. And over and over and over again, she said the reason she was in politics, the reason she was in the leadership of the Democratic Party, the reason she took that speaker's gavel was to work on behalf of children. And she has done so much throughout her career. I can't possibly summarize all of the accomplishments, but think about the Children's Health Insurance Program, which I was privileged to work on when I was First Lady. Think about the expanded child tax credit. Think about the enormous credit she deserves for marshaling the votes for the Affordable Care Act. And today is the 16th anniversary of the Affordable Care Act. I remember when it passed, I was Secretary of State, and I can't remember where I was. I was over Eastern Europe or Southern Asia or somewhere in an airplane. And I called President Obama to congratulate him, and he told me I really needed to call Nancy because she was the one who got it done. So I did call her as well. These are not some kind of abstract political victories. I get frankly frustrated when people say to me, I don't think politics matters or it doesn't make any difference. Well, Nancy Pelosi proves that's absolutely untrue. These are family issues. These are issues of whether or not children live or die, whether they can have the economic support within their families and communities to go as far as their hard work and talent will take them. So this award honors a woman who dedicated her life to children's futures. Marian Edelman famously told me that service is the rent we pay for living. And here in San Francisco, you've given us the gift of Nancy Pelosi, who has taken the mantle of leadership on children and translated it into legislation and action. So it's my great privilege to present the Marian Wright Edelman Award for leadership for child advocacy to U.S. House Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. This is such a treat for me to be in San Francisco to have a few minutes to talk with Nancy, and I'm going to jump right into it. But we saw in the film, Nancy, we saw a picture of your dad, you know, growing up in Baltimore, being steeped in the politics of that city. And you've spoken about the influence of your parents on who you became. Can you just share a few reflections on the relationships that you had as a child, what you saw and experienced, how you learned to live a life of service and impact?
Well, thank you for the question, but first I want to thank you for the award. To receive an award about the children from Hillary Clinton is such an honor for me personally and in every way. And as you heard her say, to have an award named for Marian Wright Edelman for the work that she did, she went from civil rights to then children and families. Remarkable. 1973, she founded the Children's Defense Fund, and then was that until 2020. I mean, almost 50 years. She was so remarkable, such an inspiration. The word icon is just simply not enough, but one of her contributions is that Hillary Clinton was an intern and then worked for Children's Defense Fund, so we owe Marian Wright Edelman so much, including the friendship that you had working together. And to have received it with all of you, with Jim Steyer, with the Common Sense for Children and Families conference is quite an honor in my city of San Francisco. But I was born in Baltimore. I was born in a family where I was devoutly Catholic, proud of our Italian-American heritage, fiercely patriotic, and in our case, staunchly democratic. And we wedded the church part and the politics because we were told in our religion that we had responsibilities to other people. And that's what it was all about. How do we meet the needs of others from a religious standpoint and then a political standpoint? So just briefly, because we have other questions, I'll just say the one thing that I learned when my mother was really sort of in charge of the grassroots. And so I always knew if you want to win an election, you must own the ground. And so you have to mobilize, mobilize, mobilize. And that's part of my, what I tell people all the time. And then secondly, from my father, you just have to know how to count the votes. Whether it's to win the election or to win the legislation, you have to know how to count the votes.
Well, you proved you knew how to count the votes. And I want to ask like a two-part question. You know, I look back on your career and how much you did to really further the cause of children and families, whether the Affordable Care Act, the Children's Health Insurance Program, the Child Tax Credit, really so much. What do you think will stand the test of time as your legislative accomplishments? Because you really set the standard for how to get things done. But secondly, Nancy, why is it so hard to pass legislation that helps children and families? Why is that so difficult?
It is difficult. Well, before I answer the question, I have something else to say. Because as you were speaking, I was remembering the first time I met Hillary Clinton. It was all the way back in the late 70s. And a friend of ours, Mickey Cantor, lived in Los Angeles. Mickey Cantor and I had worked on, I was a volunteer, Jerry Brown for governor way back when, and then Jerry Brown for president. So then that's over, and Mickey says, you have to meet the new governor-to-be of Arkansas. You have to meet the governor. But more important than that, you have to meet his wife. Don't tell Bill I said that. Must meet her wife. He had worked with you on legal services corporation, all of that. So why I'm telling you this is, I go to the house in LA. They're having a reception for the Clintons. I go to the house, and they open the door, and there is Hillary Clinton right there, holding Chelsea, a little baby. Chelsea must have been not even 1 year old yet.
No, I don't think she was. Yeah.
So that was my first impression of her, and she's been attending to children for her whole political career. Some of you have said, heard me say, When people ask me what are the three most important issues facing the Congress, I always say the same thing. Our children, our children, our children. Their health, their education, the financial security of their families, and that includes pension security for seniors, a healthy, safe environment in which they can thrive, including safety from gun violence, and a world at peace in which they can thrive and reach their aspirations. For the children, the children, the children, no one has done more in our country than Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton. So why is it that when you look at what Marian Wright Edelman did in terms of not only the care and feeding of children, but it was about defense fund, helping children in the legal aspects of their lives, whether they're a fostered child or of problems within their own families and how to restore them to a healthy. It's just that, well, Marian made a tremendous difference, but still more needs to be done. You would think the easiest thing for anybody to understand is when we passed the Biden child tax credit in a rescue package, it reduced child poverty in America by 50%. You would think that anybody, Democratic, Republican, Independent, or whatever, would think, let's keep doing that, right? How is that hard for people to understand? But instead they have rejected it. Now we will win. We are going to, I don't know if we can talk politics here. This is civics. We're going to win, and then we're going to restore it. But we just have to, look, Marian and Hillary, in different stages of their involvement in all of this, official and advocacy about funding for Head Start. That was early on, before your time, but funding for it wasn't. And IDEA, children with special needs, and the rest of that. And then Hillary just led the way on CHIP, the State Children's Health Insurance as CHIP, which wouldn't have happened without Hillary, and was one of the first bills we passed when we got the majority to send over. Yeah. So in any case, it shouldn't be that difficult. I always tell people, this is not for the faint of heart, this getting involved in politics, right? It's a rough business. But I said, if you know why you're there, if you know your why, then that makes everything okay. My why was the 1 in 5 children in America who lived in poverty went to sleep hungry at night. Now I'm a mother of 5 children in 6 years and 7 days. I keep telling the Archbishop, but anyway, that's another story. So it's all about the children. And so when people come to me and they talk about running for office or I'm contending with a Republican or somebody else who's I'm in disagreement with in the Congress, I just think, if you're not here for the children, you're just not worth it. And if you think when we see that the biggest cause of death for children in America is gun violence, and you think your survival is more important than those children's survivals, you're worthless. You're worthless. You're worthless. So, but I'm a big believer in mobilization, and I believe that the people have to be able to keep saying to the Republican members and the Democrats, to everybody, it's about the children. It's about the children. It's about the children. And that's why I call Congress to order as first woman speaker on behalf of all of America's children. And just one other piece of it is that this is, Kennedy said, that children are our greatest resource and our best hope for the future. Isn't what gives us hope now the alertness, the prospects of the children? Yeah. It's just, it shouldn't be so hard. We're going to make sure it isn't so hard, but it's a fight. And I'll tell you one thing. When children with special needs and their families, we have something called, well, it's a little bit political to say, but they're called, they're advocates for health care. They're advocates for health care. And when they come with their parents Hillary, you can attest to this. Do not stand in the way of parents who are there to fight for their children with special needs. It's a beautiful, beautiful sight. But these little lobbyists come with their parents, and they're, of course, adorable. They have so many challenges, but they're perfect, and their parents are there to fight for them. So that's one place where we've made a big push in terms of public policy, but needless to say, we need to do much more.
Well, I know we have to wrap up, but Nancy, this is a room filled with people who care deeply about children and families, and thanks to the work that each and every one of them is doing, we keep making progress, but it does sometimes feel like we're pushing the rock up the hill because, as you say, we'll pass something like the tax credit, poverty in children will drop more dramatically than ever, and then it expires and we don't go back and we don't do it again, and we've got new challenges with what's happening online to kids. We have a lot of issues that we'll be talking about today and tomorrow. Can you give a word of both challenge and encouragement about how people can keep going? Because it does get hard, and you do feel overwhelmed, and there's a new outrage every day about something. How do you keep going? And then how do you put together, as you say, the mobilization to create the energy and the constituency at the local, state, and federal level to do what we need to do for children?
Well, thank you. That's a tall order. Just follow the lead of Hillary Clinton. That's one way. But here's the thing. I'm a big believer in mobilization, as Hillary said. This is it. You are the power. You give us hope. Lincoln said, public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost anything. Without it, practically nothing. But for public sentiment to prevail, people have to know. We would never have passed the Affordable Care Act without the outside mobilization. Without owning the ground to pass the bill. And we would never have been able to do what we did with the child tax credit and all of that without the outside mobilization. So you know your power in this. We can maneuver to a certain extent, and it takes us just so far in the Congress or in public office. Outside mobilization makes it great. Because you bring ideas, you think entrepreneurial, fresh ways, and you make sure members of Congress, for example, that's what we're talking about now, but elected officials know that you know what they're doing about the children. So I just really, I give hope from seeing the interest of young people in what we're doing. I get hope in the mobilization that I know is out there and people are I give hope actually in the arts, because as this is presented in the arts about children and the rest, then people respond in a different way. They laugh together, cry together, and just make a difference. You find something in common with the person standing or sitting next to you, that you have something in common. You might be able to find further common ground. So we have to. Now, where is hope? People say, where is hope? And I wear these bracelets. One begins with faith. If you believe, as I do, and I think many of you do, in the goodness of the American people, the goodness of the American people. Our founders did in this 250th century. They believed the American people were good, and that's why democracy could prevail. So if you believe in the goodness of the American people, the goodness meaning charity, the people care about other people, faith and charity, right there in the middle, sitting where it always has been, is hope. Hope, faith, hope, and charity. So a belief in really, whatever your beliefs are in terms of whether it's you're a person of faith or not, but you believe in a better life for our country, that gives people hope. And that's what I'm very optimistic about. Now, I'll just tell you this as I leave this room right now, and not the place, but this is the stage. Not speaking politically, just giving you the news. Okay? The Democrats will win the House of Representatives. so big that we may even pull in the United States Senate, and that will be a great thing for our country. But we have to take us back to a place where we honor the vision of our founders, the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform, and the aspirations of our children. That is our mission, and that's what we hope to do in the election. Thank you, Jim Steyer, for being so great. Thank you, Common Sense for Children and Families, and most importantly, thank you, Hillary Clinton, for being just you, the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy Pelosi. Yay.